Welcome into Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts with CPA and personal financial specialist, Phil Putney. Now let's get rolling with today's show. Hey everybody, welcome into this edition of Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts. Phil and I got a good show lined up for you today. We're going to talk about retirement. Ready or not, here we come. Phil, what's going on, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Hanging in there, not doing too bad. So we were having this conversation prior to us hitting the record button here. We were kind of giggling about what's going on with my daughter in the Navy and so on and so forth. And you were talking about your son's ongoing saga of the dishwasher, the little remnants of COVID issues that seem to be popping up where you can't find a lot of things made out of plastic, it seems, or vinyl. There's vinyl fencing. You can't find a dishwasher, apparently. It's crazy.
Yep.
This is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy.
One of these days, maybe manufacturing will finally get caught up again, and we'll be back to some normal supply chain, I hope.
And it's all those little things nobody thinks about. We've talked about it a bunch here on the show, so I won't belabor it too much. But it was just kind of funny. We were getting ready to go, and you were telling me that he's still waiting on this dishwasher that he ordered, and they've backed it up.
In May, yeah.
Yeah. So they've backed it up yet again. So it always seems to be something. But we were also kind of chatting about a client that you recently had been working with. So we'll change names to protect the innocent and all that kind of stuff. But in the idea here for retirement ready or not, you know, based on working with some a younger person, this is a bit younger person. So this is a little bit different than your normal client base. And it's just kind of interesting to see that dynamic shift. But looks like he's really interested in doing the right thing. So that's very cool to see.
Yeah, he is. And so he came through the podcast, had found me on one of the podcast platforms and has been following us and got in touch with me. And we've been doing some planning. And he's, like you were saying, a little bit younger, 28 versus our average client is a little bit closer to retirement.
Right.
But it's been great working with him, a different perspective, still some of the same goals.
It's awesome, though.
Yeah. So I've commended him along the way. I said, you're, doing an awesome job in approaching it this early,
right?
Because you're going to have options later on.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of what spurred this is that we're nearing the end of that planning process, and he's got a well-developed plan now. We know what we're doing and we know what the next steps are.
Cool.
And he had been approached by a couple of his buddies about, hey, what are you doing? He's telling them, and they're like, what are you doing? You're only 28 years old.
Young, spend it. Yeah.
Retirement. What are you talking about?
Yeah, right.
Exactly. You're young, spend it. And so it was just an interesting conversation we had of kind of reassuring that, yeah, you're doing the right things.
Yeah.
Let's kind of walk through and have that discussion. And at the end of the day, yeah, you're on the right path. Don't worry about what they're saying. So.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing with my daughter and her roommates. They're in their early 20s as well in the Navy. And it's like, hey, put it away while you can. Especially while you're getting some of these other things that they get in the military service. And it's like savings, there's nothing wrong with that. So that savings mindset. So let's kind of talk about that a little bit, because I think that's something that most of us can, if we're being honest, can agree we don't do a really good job at. There's fewer people that have a good savings mindset than don't, right? And so it's to be commended for sure. But how could we get ourselves? Is there a way we could kind of push ourselves closer to a savings mindset, or is it just you either have it or you don't?
Well, I think it's more natural, like many things to some people than it is others. My background in finance, I'm a CPA. That's kind of always been my focus or where I've been, but yeah, to some people it is, some people it's not. So, if it's not if you're not wired that way, so to speak, the easiest way is make sure you have this goal in place, don't be thinking, just because I have extra money coming in, like in this scenario, they've got some extra housing allowance that he didn't need all of it necessarily to get the housing that he wanted.
Right.
But rather than just spend it, we've got an extra X amount of dollars a month now that he can save towards whatever that goal is,
And I imagine if you're younger and if you're watching or listening to this and you are younger, or maybe you want to share this with your grandkids or your kids who are younger, think about some of the goals that you want to accomplish a little further down, and it does make it a whole lot easier. Even in 2020 with the pandemic, putting stuff aside for savings. So I would imagine in this guy's case, and I don't know because he's younger, but I'll even use my daughter's example is, at some point you may want to buy your own home.
Right. Yep.
Right.
And that's one of the objects, or his goals of buying the house in a few years. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're putting it towards that, future kids,
Yep, that's another plan that we, all these pieces that we put in. So, yeah,
Right.
and really to me, when that they savings mindset is, it comes down to, I think, don't let your income determine your spending,
True.
because
Yeah, yeah,
if
yeah.
you're doing it that way, you'll never save.
Just because you're making it doesn't mean you got to
You're
spend it.
never going to earn enough,
Yeah.
because the more you earn, the more you spend. I mean, it's a never ending cycle.
Right.
Let your spending be what it is, controlled. If you earn additional income, yeah, maybe give yourself a little extra. You need some incentive, but don't spend it all.
Right.
Look to save. Best example, I have several clients that said, you know what, the best thing I ever did in my career was, as I started to get increases, I increased my contribution to the 401k. I
Yeah.
didn't naturally say, I get another $100 a month this month because of my raise. I'm going to spend it for this
Well, you're
week
talking
or
about
whatever it
paying your
is.
future
So
self is what you're talking about, right?
exactly, it comes down to having that, looking down the road, so to speak. And that's kind of the next thing we talked about was, what are the goals down the road? It's not just today.
Okay.
You have to look beyond today, and, oh, I got X amount coming in this month, and, oh, look at this, I've got $500 left. What can we do? I've always wanted that Xbox or whatever it is.
Right. Right.
Oh, that's great. Well, maybe save
Some
for
new
it, or,
lights on my truck or something. Yeah.
yeah, whatever that something is that you want.
Right.
Look down the road a little bit, have that future mindset, their future self, and by doing that, yeah, it might be a little bit what you might think painful today. You're not getting the full enjoyment.
Right.
But if you look down the road, your future self is going to be very thankful, and you will when you get there, because you're going to have options.
I get that. So for maybe for military people sometimes as well, they're thinking, hey, kind of live a bit more in the now, because you never know what's going to happen, depending on their career path and
Sure.
so on and so forth. So I get a lot of that. But yeah, to your point, my best friend is he's the retired military, and he went through a lot of stuff, and his body is pretty darn beat up, and
Oh,
so
yeah.
a lot of times he finds himself saying, yeah, luckily I'm able to retire, because I was thinking about some of these things as I was beating myself up. I was thinking about, okay, I need to kind of put this away or that away. And so, yeah, looking down the road, that's a great point that you make. No matter what your age or occupation is, not only do we have to pay ourselves currently and
Yep.
take that off the top for some things, but we also have to pay our future selves. And if that means tweaking the budget a little bit, and there I go with that evil B word again.
Yeah, I know, it's that B word, and try not to mention it.
But it can really help, right? So
Yeah,
this guy that you're talking
absolutely.
about, he's thinking about, he might be able to retire quite early,
Yep.
he might be retiring in his 40s. That's amazing.
Yeah, and that's what I was telling him, because he was having this discussion and, really thinking, am I on the right track? And I said, you're doing great. I said, stick with
Right.
it. I said, talk to your buddies and let them know, but don't listen to what they say. I said, the reality is this. I said, 10 years down the road, when you're 5 years from retirement, and you're telling them, hey, I'm thinking of retire in 5 years, they're going to say, what are you talking about? How are you able to do
How are
that?
you able to pull that off? Well, not to pick on you guys, the buddies, that if he shares this and you know who you are kind of thing, not to pick on you, but there's some good points to be made in there. And of course, as always, thank everybody for their service. We certainly appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And it's one of those things though, but I think no matter what walk of life you're in, you can think about future proofing a little bit. There's nothing wrong
Yep.
with doing that. And of course, in the ever changing, crazy, world that we find ourselves in, and it seems to be getting weirder all the time, future proofing is not the worst idea. So is there a magic bullet, Phil? Is there something for those who maybe didn't think early?
Not really. I mean, and that's another thing he was mentioning is, okay, so what's the magic bullet? Because he said, I listen to other podcasts, and,
Right.
they keep mentioning, oh, this is the magic bullet. And I said, the concern I have is, if you ever hear that, get ready to be sold, because usually that
Sure.
means they're trying to say, oh, this is it. This
Gold is the
product,
magic bullet.
exactly, gold, or, you got to buy this investment, or you got to do this, or whatever it is, there is no magic bullet. There's no
Right.
one thing, investment or otherwise, that'll do it. I said, if there's any magic bullet, I said, really, it's you.
Yeah.
It's first of all, your discipline
I was
in
going to say
saving
discipline may be the magic bullet.
and having that future mindset to do that, and then having a plan, having the foresight early on to say, hey, I'm trying to do things the right way and put money away, but what does this really look like? I think I need some help. Let's put some structure to this.
Yeah.
That, if anything, the magic bullet is that it's having that foresight early to say, let's put a structure, a plan in place to understand what does it take. And that'll even help you with that future self and that foresight, so you can start to see a goal and say, okay, that's the reason I'm doing this, and I'm not spending all the extra money, is that my retirement option is at 15 years or whatever it is.
Right.
And I say it that way because it gives you, to me, that's what retirement is. It doesn't mean that, I'm done working. It means you work when and if you want to.
Sure. Yeah.
So you're working at whatever the career is, and hopefully you enjoy it.
You have options.
But at that age, you can say, okay, you know what? I've saved enough that I could just walk away and be done if I wanted. Or if I want to continue and do something I really like now, maybe my passion, that it doesn't really pay as much,
right,
I can do that.
Yeah.
But you have options. And that's really what it comes down to, is having those options at a future point.
Well, I think on our little podcast here, Phil, we solved the riddle of the magic bullet. It's just discipline. And whether you're young and that's tougher when you're young. I get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was there. I didn't do a real good job myself. So whether it's finding the discipline when you're young or even when you're older, if you're closing in on retirement and you didn't do enough, ramp up the discipline a little bit as you're getting closer. That can help you. There's different things. There's the catch-up provisions. There's different things after the age of 50 that you can be doing, but it may require a bit more discipline.
Yeah, and that's, for those that maybe are a little bit older than that and approaching retirement quicker, don't be discouraged and thinking, it's too late, just forget it. There's an old
you're only
Chinese
delayed.
adage or whatever, that talks about when's the right time to plant a tree. It's now, sure, if you planted one 15 years ago, you might be sitting in the shade today, a little bit better position.
Right.
But do it today.
Right.
That's kind of word, ready or not. Unfortunately, especially in the environment we're in, there's a lot of people that are kind of fitting that ready or not scenario because maybe their job has changed or maybe it's been eliminated.
Yep.
During this time frame. So
yeah, COVID certainly has caused that. So, retirement will be coming no matter what for all of us, right? So whether we are able to, when we want to, or on our terms, we can do things to kind of put it more on our terms. And of course, Phil and I talk about that all the time. So put some of the onus back on ourselves, take some responsibility. And part of that is just reaching out and saying, hey, I need some help. A lot of times that's just the biggest thing, is just saying, all right, well, here's what I got. Help me figure out what to do with it. So as always, if you need some help, don't forget, subscribe to our podcast. We'd certainly appreciate it on whatever platform you like, whether it's Apple or Google or Spotify or iHeart or Stitcher. I think we'll be coming to Amazon soon if we're not already, because they're going to be doing their podcast service as well. So make sure you subscribe to us if you'd like to get some more information. You can find all of it at philstaxhacks.com. That's philstaxhacks.com. As always, if you need some help right away, before you take any action, if you're thinking about doing something and you're not sure how it's going to affect you, talk with a professional. If it's not Phil, talk with somebody who does this every day. You can reach out to Phil at 248-888-7530. And that's going to do it this week for us here on Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts. Phil, my friend, I'll see you soon. Good luck with the great dishwasher hunt.
Investment advisory services offered through AFS Wealth Management. The content of this program is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. Investments and/or investment strategies involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. There is no assurance that any investment strategy will achieve its objectives.